Hello and welcome to Least Weasel Racing. In this series I'm going to be building a mini hydro sprint class Outrigger hydroplane, and in this part 1 I'm going to be building the hull. You can see here I've got a drawing of my Sponson outline already, and I came up with this with the class rules, which are a maximum of 450mm in length. And I want to emphasize stability, so I'm going for a 4 degrees Sponson angle of attack. Now, the angle of attack can be in between 3 and about 10 degrees. The lower the angle of attack, the more stable it will be, but the less efficient it will be to push. With the high angle of attack, it's very easy to push through the water, but it will become unstable at speed. And I've cut out 3 pieces of balsa and glued them together with balsa cement. Balsa cement's definitely the best glue to use for this, as it's very easy to sand and cut through. It's probably weaker than the balsa itself, so as there's no stress on it, it makes the sanding process a lot easier and the carving process. Now you can see me here, I'm carving my balsa sticks into a sort of round shape, nice and smoothly aerodynamic. Once I've carved it with the knife, then I'm sanding it with a rough sander. This is a permagrit block, a tool that I really like using. On one side of it, it's got a very coarse tungsten carbide, and on the other side it has much finer tungsten carbide. And as the name implies, it's permanently gritty. It's not like sandpaper, it virtually never wears out. Just brush it off with a wire brush when it gets a bit clogged up. So that's my sponsons done, and I'm going on to carving the tub. Now I know it looks yellow, but this is the same as normal blue foam that you can find in a lot of places. And I'm cutting that down to size to make my tub from. And as you see me whittling away here, I'm taking 1 photo every 3 seconds and then playing it back at 24 frames a second. So that's roughly 75 times sped up footage. As well as the balsa, the permagrit block works brilliantly on the foam. Now, I did actually make a slight mistake, and I rounded both corners at the back of that block of foam. And then I realised that I'm going to have to put the rudder on one side, and the rudder's a rectangular profile, so I've just cut a notch into the foam, and I'm fitting another piece of foam, just gluing it in lightly. I can't use balsa cement for this, so I've got a little bit of foam safe Sino in there to stick it on, and then I'm blending that in with the rest of the tub block. And a bit of lighter sanding with a much finer sanding grit and freehand, so it conforms to the curves. Now here I'm wrapping it in packing tape, which is to stop the glass cloth sticking to it. And then I waxed that packing tape, and I've cut out some cloth. I've got a layer of carbon, then the white thing is a layer of Lantor Soric, which is a very cool, fairly new product, or new to me anyway. It's like foam honeycombs, where the honeycombs are actually a fabric which absorbs the resin, and then it's got foam hexagons that don't absorb any resin. So it's 3mm thick, which spaces top and bottom plies out a lot. And yeah, it's mainly foam, so it doesn't weigh very much at all. I've then stuck that in a vacuum bag and vacuum bag that in my kitchen. Then I'm wrapping the sponsons that I carved out with a layer of carbon. Now I'm unwrapping the tub, which just has a floor at this point, so only the bottom is resined. And these are my sponsons that have come out. I've cut the carbon roughly to shape and recoated it in resin, then stuck another layer of carbon around it, and then they're going back in the vacuum bags. Now I've stuck a layer of Kevlar and then 2 layers of glass over the top of the tub. Then that gets a breather layer, a perforated membrane, and then a breathing cloth, and then a vacuum bag, and that gets vacuum bagged. Now I'm actually cheating here. My Kevlar version did go wrong. I forgot to weigh it down, so it came out looking like a banana when the resin had gone off. So I started again completely, and this time I did it just with glass because I didn't have enough Kevlar. But there's a heck of a lot of sanding to do when it comes out. This external moulding, I'll call it, or lost foam moulding, it doesn't give the best finish. It's a very fast way to mould, but there is a lot of sanding to do afterwards. Now I'm here cutting holes in the sides that I'm going to put my boom tubes through. I used 450 size helicopter rotor blades as my boom tubes, and then I'm sanding down the sponsons, and on the bottoms where the 2 layers of carbon meet, when I ground that down, there's a little bit of wood showing, so I'm here now putting carbon toes over the tops and the bottoms for extra stiffness. And now I'm epoxying a carbon fibre turn fin mount to my right hand sponson so I can mount and turn fin, and sanding that down. I'll cut out my hatches. I decided for 3 hatches to these. 2 of them can stay almost permanently closed and just have the battery one replaceable. 1 hatch is easier, makes access a lot easier, but 3 hatches you get a lot more stiffness from uninterrupted glass going across, and it's a big saver on tape because you're only having to tape up 1 hatch at a time. And I'm prizing cutting and weeding out all the foam from my boat, and I couldn't get that little bit at the back, so here I'm filling the back end up with acetone and melting it out. You can see the water it's not water, the acetone has turned yellow and it all melted out. I then stuck little pieces of glass which are 1 layer of 25 grams per square meter glass, very very thin. It must be like 0.1 of a millimeter. I stuck those over the hatchways just so I could get something to hold the hatches in place with, little lips, and ground those down. Now here, opening out the boom holes. and checking with the angle gauge that I could get them at the right angle whilst they're going through. And here centering the rear boom, and then marking it off and doing the same for the front boom. The slots are cut slightly oversized, so I've got a bit of wiggle room for angles. There I'm just roughing up the carbon on the booms and roughing up the carbon in the bottom of the boat so I get good adhesion. I'm weighing the boat down and then putting my angle gauge across to keep it at 0 degrees angle of attack when the boat's level. So even though they're aerodynamic shape, they will give no lift or no downforce while the boat's running flat. And there I was mixing up some epoxy and micro balloons, which is my favourite filler. Very strong, very light, and gluing the booms in with that. A bit more epoxy and micro balloons for the front. Mix up the epoxy, add some micro balloons, add some more micro balloons. Probably roughly three micro balloons for every resin by volume. But just mix it up until it isn't runny anymore, and it won't dribble all over the place. And what I generally do is leave it to go off for a bit until it sort of semi-solidifies, then come back a couple of hours later and wipe it off with some IPA on a rag. Here I'm cutting boom slots into the sponsons. Doing it with a little carbide burr on my Dremel. Then weeding out all the balsa with a knife. Weighing the boat down again. And same for the other sponson. Just draw around the boom with it weighed down. Dremel out the outline, and then we'll weed out the wood with a knife. Actually, on this side I'm using a slightly bigger tungsten bit to get most of it out, and then weeding out the last part that I can't reach down to with the Dremel. Just saves a little time. Just here checking that I can get them all parallel, and I couldn't get them equidistant or parallel, so out comes a permagrip block again, and also a little carbide burr. One of my blades had a weight in it. It obviously wouldn't quite balance from the factory, and it has a steel pin in one end, which is a bit of a pain for my liking, but it's not impossible. And then again, epoxy microballoons into the holes. I've already sanded down the ends of the booms, as you can see, the little matte areas at the ends. Now it's just a matter of sticking the sponsons onto the booms, just covering the booms in a bit of epoxy microblends as well. Then scrape off the worst of the excess. Make sure it's down flat, weighted down in the right attitude. A little more under the boom. And that's it for building the hull. If you like this, why not subscribe so you don't miss part 2 where I'll be fitting it out.